Hello and welcome, Rangers. I'm Joe, here from my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And today we're discussing Psycho Blue. Am I blue? Sorry, I couldn't resist that. Oh, man. That episode in Justice League was pretty good.
Yeah.
But the Psycho Ranger episodes were way better.
They were insanely good.
Yeah. Psychotically good, one might even say.
That's crazy.
Hope you all like the puns. They're all intended. Hey, they're all puns. The finest type of humor in the world. And this is a character whom it is interesting just how much of an opposite he is to Billy Cranston. Billy was a genius, unparalleled, and just formidable as far as intellectual achievements and even physical feats. Physical accomplishments. And yet Psycho Blue is so dumb.
Very possessive.
Yeah. He, I think, gets taunted a few times by Psycho Red. He doesn't really contribute much. He doesn't seem to... Well, he seems, yes, obsessed with, of course, TJ. And what is fascinating is just that arguably the Space Blue Ranger abilities are worth less than pajama bottoms because TJ has no armor and no firepower with those abilities. And I say that because where the other Rangers are able to shrug off blaster bolts and the combined attacks of the Psycho Rangers after a few moments of pain, TJ is severely injured, which suggests that the Blue Space Ranger powers, there's something off about them. They're incredibly weak. A Ranger of TJ's quality, especially when you consider how formidable he was as Turbo Red, should not be that wounded when he's... And we all know what I mean when I say that wounded. It's the time he ended up in the med bay. And part of me can't help but think that maybe Andros held out on him a little and saw it as, well, give him the lesser abilities. Because TJ is, franchement, the real leader. And where Andros is more fixated on his sister for some reason, and TJ is more focused on Zordon, so that I just wonder if maybe he handed him essentially a non-morphing power of sorts. Basically, abilities so puny he wouldn't be a threat to Andros physically. And I know that's suggesting Andros is not entirely on the Turbo Ranger side, but he's not. He's not really on their side. He's on Andros' side. Andros' mission in this season is to save Astronema. It is not to save Zordon. Zordon is not even on the radar. Whereas the other Space Rangers, for the most part, Zordon is the objective. And this is where it has to be discussed just what is wrong with TJ's abilities, because they're worthless. And I know the space abilities aren't the strongest, and they're better off as scouting abilities or as the kind of ability for deep space travel. But on the other hand, the Lost Galaxy abilities seem to be pretty good for space travel, and they're just powerhouses. That said, they're far more ancient abilities, which means they're better, and they're not scientific Ranger abilities. From what I've noticed, the scientific abilities often seem weaker than the spiritual ones. It seems like the spiritual ones are as strong as the Ranger's spirit. They're only as good as what the man or woman themselves are, as in the case of the Quasar Swords. Damien's not very notable in terms of abilities. Actually, he's a joke. But then you look at Leo or Kai, they're powerhouses. So right there, we've got spiritual based abilities, or you've got the ninjetti abilities of the original six from the movie. Their abilities are through the roof. They're all juggernauts. You've got the Zeo abilities, which I know somebody in the comment section is going to go, what about the Zeo abilities? Stronger than before. Yes, we know. Thank you. The Zeo abilities are awesome. We know. Okay? You don't have to beat them over our heads. We agree with you. But the OG abilities were more scientific based. That much we do know, given Zordon mentions that a few times. You have them, you have the turbo abilities. They're not as formidable. But the turbo powers seem to be stronger than the Space Ranger abilities, for the most part. So, that said, even with that knowledge, I just think that TJ sustaining that much of an injury, like basically being hospitalized, is not, that's not good. There's something off about his abilities. They're not working.
It's a situation where you want to take it and improve it.
Yeah, or chuck it. Because he doesn't have any real noteworthy accomplishments as the Blue Ranger, outside of his strategic thinking and his leadership, which I'd argue, as a leader and as a strategist, TJ has a lot of accomplishments. As the Blue Ranger, in a fight, he doesn't seem to have any. But he is a great fighter, as seen in, well, any fight he's in, for the most part, minus some of the fights in space. And he was shoved to the side. Now, his idea of decorating everyone in the Blue Ranger costume in order to confuse Psycho Blue, who's single-minded and obsessed with him, was a very clever idea. And it's the sort of plan that Tommy would have come up with. The only thing is, yeah, we'll get into Jane in a minute. I'm not very fond of him as a character. But the thing is, by putting everyone in those blue costumes, as Psycho Blue is getting more and more obsessed with TJ, it plays to the Psycho Ranger's weaknesses and to the strengths of the Rangers. Them dispelling the spell was a really, or at least getting rid of the blue, all being blue, was a dumb idea. I actually think that they should have kept the disguise and kept at it till they took down Psycho Blue.
That would have been probably a better strategic move.
But the thing is, they got carried away. That's the sort of thing that, I mean, no offense, the six from the movie would never have allowed. They would have. It's not the sort of mistake they would have made, and I'd even argue the Lost Galaxy or Lightspeed Rescue Rangers would have made. And it's the sort of mistake that would have cost them the life of a Ranger. Had Lord Zed, Drakina, or Vipera been around. Had it been one of these serious villains, someone would have paid the price for it. Because they play for keeps. The Psycho Rangers were obvious. Well, I'd argue they weren't. You had a few of them ready to go because they saw us, this isn't worth it. We're frustrated and we're tired and screw this. So they were not playing for keeps that day, except for maybe Psycho Blue. As stated, he's probably the second most single-minded, or maybe even the third most single-minded and obsessive Psycho Ranger. The first two being Pink and Red, who are even more single-minded and obsessed. But Blue, that said, can Billy be as single-minded and obsessive as Psycho Blue? Certainly. He can be. But it's a flaw he had to overcome in various episodes. But does it cost him his IQ? No, it's just that Billy keeps hurdling himself against a problem, mostly intellectual, till he cracks it. That's Billy. Whereas Psycho Blue doesn't have much in the way of brains.
It's like he wants to go after the Blue Ranger like he has something to prove.
Yeah.
Which Billy had a bit of that mindset early on.
Yeah, he was insecure.
But eventually, Billy let go of that.
Yeah. Um,
Whereas Psycho Blue is just embodies Billy's insecurities.
I wonder if he's also a bit of a shadow Justin, Psycho Blue. Single-minded, obsessive. Justin could get like that over his dad and whatnot, and male figures.
And he sometimes went in
impulsively.
Yeah.
And I wonder if... And Justin was a good character. I'm not saying he wasn't to an extent. He wasn't great either. He was just a character. He could have been better. But he wasn't the smartest character. And that's the thing. I'm just saying Psycho Blue might be more akin to him in that regard. Though, if you ask me, I think that the Justin actor should get another shot. And even if he plays the same character grown up, it'd be interesting because, well, give him a second chance at the franchise. He deserves it. Because I don't think the first time around people treated him quite all that fairly. Maybe if he gets a second shot as an adult ranger, we'll get to see a much more impressive character in Justin. And I think he's covered in tattoos like GDF, so let him showcase his tattoos. That was something that annoyed GDF, so maybe let's not push the actor in that regard. Not to mention, it'd be funny if Justin did become a tatted up boxer type.
Yeah, the good little boy
grew up and got tatted up. That'd be hilarious.
Well, if Tommy got tatted up, then...
Well, Tommy didn't.
Yeah, I know.
Did. That said, I think that maybe there's potential for, like, if you do that, you could still showcase him as a Boy Scout. It's just that he looks like he's a biker or something. But, yeah. As to Jane, him coming out in the Psycho Silver outfit was just... We'll get to that in another video in more detail, but... Like, the idea of a Psycho Silver is a great idea. Especially if a Psycho Silver was more a shadow side of Tommy. That would have been awesome. But unfortunately, it was just Jane wanting attention and going, well, I want to be involved in this plan. And essentially, I mean, no offense, but derailing TJ's entire plan just for attention. Like, what does he even do as Psycho Silver? He just confuses the Psycho Rangers, takes his helmet off, and taunts them. So you didn't even do anything with this. So, yeah, Jane, probably the dumbest ranger who ever lived. Let's be honest.
And honestly...
I like Justin more than Jane. Actually, I think Jane... I might like Nick more than Jane. I never liked Jane as a character.
And even Andros would have the idea, don't just take off the helmet if you're going to pull off such a plan.
Yeah, well, the thing about Andros is he does have a strategic side to him. Like, my point was just that Andros has his own motive. Not that he's dumb. No, like, he's actually a really, really smart guy. Although I think where his sister is concerned, he's not the smartest in some ways.
His judgment gets blinded.
Yeah, but that's regarding family and whatnot. So, the trouble with Andros is he can be pretty smart. I would say Astronema's smart, but I think she's more average intellect. But the thing is, Dark Spectre is just below average. He's probably the dumbest villain there's ever been. I mean, he knows the thing that's sucking out my power is coming from your ship. Can you explain that to me? Nope, nothing to see here. Nope. Oh, well, I guess it must be my imagination.
Spectre just bungled every step of the way. Instead of, for example, choosing the one villain that walked into the command center and blew it up, he chose Astronema.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Astronema does have her strengths.
Yes, this is a rather clever plot.
But the trouble is, it's not that dangerous, though. There's no risk, because Dark Spectre will never see it coming. And he doesn't, even when the evidence, he sees the evidence.
I mean, he knew
She was betraying him.
he knew Astronema was the ones that created the Psycho Rangers, and then, oh, the Psycho Rangers are sucking my energy for some odd reason.
Well, he doesn't know she created the Psycho Rangers because she said, I didn't do it, even though they're created in her ship. They came from her ship. They were in her ship. So yeah, you're right. He does know. But this is where I find that Jane taking off that entire Psycho Silver scene and taunting Psycho Blue. I don't get the scene. I don't get it.
There was no real
he didn't have to cosplay. It's like he came from a convention and said, "Oh, right, I better make sure I actually contribute. Let's see. Oh, wait, I want to be involved in this plan too. Just put him in the blue bloody with the blue spray paint and whatnot, too. Then he'll be involved. But I guess that's not enough for his ego. And I do call it ego because why did he derail TJ's great plan? That's all I can say. He's derailing the plan. And I guess this is why I wish Jason was in this season, because we'd have an aggressive, domineering, impulsive ranger who would charge and be able to hold his own weight versus whatever the heck Jane is. And yeah, Jane gets kidnapped because of course he does in this arc. And of course he keeps bungling. The only thing he does right is pretending to be a Psycho Ranger at the end to scare Andros a little. Then Andros knocks him to the ground because, well, justice. But honestly, the thing with Psycho Blue is he was manageable. He was not a problem that needed to be escalated, and yet it got escalated at the last minute. So, yeah. He's probably the Psycho Ranger I'd say might be the weakest and the most easily managed. Were it not for Jane in these episodes. And it's in these episodes that you see why Jane should never have gotten the morpher. And why the Rangers should have long since grabbed it from him and chucked him out the airlock. And it would not be murder. It'd be justice. Because anyone who's that Jane-like doesn't deserve a morpher. I think Nick from Mystic Force would be a better fit for those powers. I trust him more than I trust this guy.
But Nick would simply sell them out to the villains.
Yeah, but he wouldn't bungle half as bad as Jane.
Okay, you've got me there.
Now, I'm bashing Jane only because I've vowed recently never to lie to people. Or at least try not to lie to folks. And I feel that if I were to lie about how I feel about the Psycho Blue arc, I'd be kind of breaking that oath. And I want to be honest with people that I don't like Jane. I'm not particularly fond of Andros, but on the other hand, I find him an interesting character in some ways, intellectually. Psycho Blue is a funny Psycho Ranger, but he lacks the great writing of some of the other Psycho Rangers. He's not as distinctive. He's more driven, I should say. And it's fascinating how TJ tries to use his brains to overcome him. And had TJ even had Power Ranger abilities in this season, and I criticize his Blue Ranger abilities because they're just a joke. Plywood would be a better defense for him. He'd probably have been able to solo Psycho Blue, I would argue. Now, in Lost Galaxy, I'm going to argue that Kai and TJ teaming up was... Yeah, Psycho Blue was really out of his element. That's a team-up that I think, to an extent, maybe like Andros and Leo, they more than had him taken care of. Like, the thing is, I don't think Psycho Blue had even a chance, even a ghost of one, against TJ and Kai. These are two of the best Blue Rangers out there. And, well, I'd argue TJ is one of the greatest Rangers of all times. And one of them. And Kai is easily one of the greatest Blue Rangers. If not, maybe second or third best. And you combine that against Psycho Blue. No, he does not have the overwhelming power of Psycho Pink, nor does he have the incredible cunning of Psycho Yellow. And it is really the female Psycho Rangers who are the most formidable. As to the male ones, maybe arguably Psycho Red might be the most ferocious. And it's, except in Psycho Red's case, Leo, well, Andros is clever and Leo is just clever and super strong. So that's a perfect combo against him. The thing is, though, you don't really...
Psycho Blue, at least Psycho Red, is willing to apply teamwork to some degree.
Fair enough. Psycho Blue just charges.
It's like, they're all Blue Rangers. I'm going to... They're mine. You guys aren't allowed.
Which was such a dumb idea. Like I said, he might be more like Justin in some ways than Billy.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't know what other Blue Ranger to compare him to. Rocky, as Red/Blue Ranger, was always a level-headed, rational fellow. Although he did have an impulsive side, he did have a temper. But Rocky preferred to fight methodically and cleverly. You have TJ, well, he's the height of rationality. You have Kai, who is a hothead, but Kai is all about the rules and
protocol.
Yeah, I was searching for the word. Thank you. But none of you can have him. He's mine. That's not Kai. Kai's obsessed with teamwork. Lightspeed Rescue, he doesn't have enough of a personality, so we can't judge. Time Force, I don't really remember. I'm just being honest. I don't remember Time Force. I think I only saw a few episodes. I can't remember. And we're going to go all the way up to Dino Thunder. Ethan, I don't think he would do that. Ethan starts off a bit of a wuss and coward, but he does have a logical side, and towards the end, he would rather share the glory in the fight with Connor. Him and Connor are welded at the hip. So, and he's really smart, Ethan, deep down. So, I can't see him doing they're all Blue Rangers, they're mine. You can't have them. That's not Ethan. So, yeah. And Tommy, oh, come on. He was eventually going to get a Blue Ranger costume. I'm joking. The Rainbow Ranger. But
I'll honestly say, if I hear Rocky say that, my thought would be, okay, where are the other Rangers going? He's playing diversion.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. He'd do that as a diversion.
And he's smart enough to know how to pull it off.
Yeah, true. It is Justin that I think has that driven side to him. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't mean to say Justin's dumb. It's just that in the heat of the moment, he tends to get single-minded.
There are times where he runs off and...
In some ways, he's more like a younger version of Jason in that regard.
Yeah, he can be a really good scout. He's good at spying on people. But sometimes he can be a bit too impulsive, but he's a kid.
Yeah, and he was not terribly great in a fight. But he was a kid.
Yeah.
I guess he was a lot like Psycho Blue. Yeah. But usually typically the Psycho Rangers resemble more the first season Rangers, which I like that. They're shadow versions of them. But Psycho Blue is the odd man out.
It's like I mentioned. The most I could think of is applying Billy's insecurities
and single-mindedness.
And now feeling like he has something to prove.
Yeah, that's fair. But Billy would look at the whole, there's like 5 Blue Rangers situation and go, huh, that's interesting. well, how can I'll ask each of them a question, and then I'll figure out from there which one's which. And he would figure it out. He's clever enough. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed this video. And even if you didn't, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Leo taking down Drakena.